Well, I finally watched the Milo performance on Bill Maher's panel. It took me a while to get to it because it looked like it was a debacle. And it was. It was a debacle. I think that it was the worst performance I've seen from Mr. Yiannopoulos yet. And I'm kind of a fan otherwise, but this seemed pretty bad. But I did notice where the problem started and then why it degenerated. And the problem started really from a data impasse, with people saying, this is true, no, this is true, and they're not having any way of agreeing on what the truth was. And that data impasse led to basically the end of any debate, any real possible solution. And in their frustration, Yiannopoulos went overboard and basically said, you're stupid. He basically joked to Bill Maher that he should invite smarter guests, people with higher IQ. Well, this was, as V noted, a bad idea, considering that there were two black gentlemen on the panel, and there's a history of low IQ talk about African Americans, which is unfortunate for a number of reasons, and so that didn't go well. And V argued that Wilmot's response of, well, fuck you, was entirely correct, because that's what you do when somebody calls you stupid. And he's right there, because that was not a data impasse, that was a contractual impasse. Every argument, every discourse, every debate, whatever you want to call it, there's a sort of a necessary level of agreement on the rules of a debate. Is that one of the things is you don't call each other names and you don't call each other stupid, and you sort of engage on some level of politesse. And by calling his interlocutors stupid, Yiannopoulos basically destroyed the debate completely. So that was a contractual impasse. And this was really followed quickly after the data impasse. So we got to witness in very short time two very common ways that discourse devolves in our society. And they devolve because no one has a means of coming to terms on the data, and it devolves because the people cease to come to terms with each other and stick to being respectful and honestly and earnestly, on some level, trying to get to the truth. When you call each other names, you're no longer trying to get to the truth. You're not trying to even convince each other, because convincing is long past. But I must say, it was understandable because of the data impasse. One person said, that's not true. The other person says, that's true. They couldn't agree on the basic data. And as the old saying goes, we all get our own opinions, but we don't really get their own facts. And on a debate show, when there is a data impasse, you really can't go any further. And the moderator really is obligated to call attention to the data impasse and do something about it. Say, well, we have to put this aside, but we should check it later. There should actually be a follow-up. All these things are a good idea, but Bill Maher didn't do any of that. Bill Maher actually exacerbated things, very quickly. That was a debacle of a discourse. The dialogue devolved into name-calling, and it wasn't pleasant at all. But people were laughing and smiling and blah, blah, blah. This is entertainment. It's not really much of an entertainment when people cannot maintain their cools, and the cools went when they proved themselves fools. I didn't like Milo's going there with the statistics on trans violence, which was the issue that got things kind of heated. It's unnecessary, because you can deal with the trans issue entirely in terms of rights and responsibilities that everybody should have. And there's no need to go into issues of debatable data when you have simply what do we owe trans people, what may not trans people ask of us. They may ask of us their rights, they may not ask of us special favors. And that's worthwhile right there. I am afraid that was a very bad performance on Milo's part, but then, of course, He's more used to giving lectures and informal interviews than on-the-spot gangbang interviews like that was. He was better, for instance, one-on-one with Maher than he was with the panel. And I think that that's often the case, especially when the panel is almost uniformly against you. And then you also have people who basically have this idea that believing certain things about data is an important part of their self-esteem. We are on the right side because we believe this rather than this, without giving us any evidence for what the this is correct or the that is incorrect. Very, very strange. That's actually a believer's attitude, the attitude of ideologues, the attitude of cultists. So I would say that the gadfly, Milo, was in a sea of cultists and couldn't quite manage it because it's difficult to do, especially when you have people who say that their data is correct and yours isn't, and neither you or they can prove it at the moment, and neither of you want to step outside. You know, in the case of an insult, people used to say, well, you want to step outside to settle this? Well, of course, you aren't settling it in any real rational way. You're basically defending your honor by taking it to a different venue, and in the days of duels, that venue ended in death, right? That the contest ended in death. And that somehow seems like it'd be a bad option. But right now, we have no options. We just have people retreating to their corners and fuming. This does not a rational society make. And I'm afraid we saw that pretty obviously.